Welcome to another edition of Voice of the Diaspora. In studio with me today is Professor Dr. David Hinds of the WPA. We will be talking about the Buxton meeting and the statement made by WPA member Tacuma Ogunseye when he called on the armed forces not to turn your guns on African Guyanese, when we would have rise up with civil disobedience to push back the PPP's domination, oppression, and excesses. The head of the armed forces, the Attorney General, the People's Progressive Party, the Private Sector Commission, and a number of PNCR Indo-Guyanese MPs and executive members came out against Mr. Ogunseye's statement. What do we think about what Mr. Ogunseye said at that Buxton rally? As the gauntlet being thrown down, as political leaders made up their minds now to confront a regime that has been oppressing Africans, saying enough is enough. Dr. David Hinds joins me now. Professor Dr. David Hinds, welcome to Voice of the Diaspora. I want to go straight into the program. I know you have had a long day. I feel somewhat sympathetic, though you don't need that sympathy, for your energies that you would have been extending over the past few days in making the point and clarifying what your brother and comrade, freedom fighter Tacuma Ogunseye would have said at that Buxton meeting. You have been blazing the trail. You have been outspoken. And I want to ask you this first question. One of Guyana's most prolific writers, Indo-Guyanese writers, who is on the side of right, someone who has to be respected, someone who is a voice of reason, G.H.K. Lal said that he thought Mr. Ogunseye went too far with that statement. Talk to us about what happened at that Buxton meeting, what was said, and respond to GHK.
Yes. What happened at that meeting is what we started to do in Moko. And perhaps they weren't paying attention, We went to Moko and then we went to Denhamstel, Golden Grove, Denhamstel, and then we went to Buxton. And those meetings were planned because we, in the WPA, we continue to study the situation very, very carefully. And we felt as a party that the time had come for a definitive statement to be made. The political party is a particular organism in our society. Yes, they are the churches. The church has a very significant role in terms of socializing people. And next to the church is the political party. And we felt as a political party with long experience in Guyanese politics and with a name. No matter how they try to kill us, that they can't kill that name. And we felt that we needed to put our party on the line and to confront the PPP as you confront bullies, and said, okay, let's talk now. And so we planned those meetings specifically for that. And like I said, they may not have been paying attention, or if they were paying attention, they probably weren't taking us seriously. When we got to Buxton, of course, Buxton is liberated territory. I am from Buxton. Kidaki and Dion Abrams are from Buxton. The WPA has continued to enjoy the respect of Buxtonians. And so, brother Aubrey Norton decided to join the platform, which, in a sense, signaled to people that this was not a WPA versus PNC thing. And so, therefore, that's where I think they paid attention. And these things happen in politics. Maybe the atmosphere, maybe the place, whatever it is, but the ancestors brought the words out in a particular way. All right? Now, the word itself does not necessarily give you the message. You have to look at the context and listen in the context of Ogunse's speech, my speech, Dion, and the thing, to really get the context of what he was saying. Basically, what my brother was saying, what we in the WPR are saying, is that look, you have a government that has made it clear through its pronouncements and its policies that it is going to dominate the society. And what domination means is that it will oppress the section of the society that is not politically in its camp. And that has given rise to a whole set of actions, from police killings to demolition of people's homes to unsubstantiated charges against people, demolition of people's stands, to the blatant unequal distribution of the oil money, to the blanking of the opposition, no space at all in the National Assembly for the opposition, to the stealing of money from Itpadaji. When you put all those things together, there is a pattern. And we felt that, look, we need to highlight that. But we also need to highlight something, that there's a government doing all these terrible things, but then it turns to the police and the army to suppress us if we only speak anything that opposes what they are doing. And we felt that protest and resistance to what the PPP is doing must be linked to what the PPP is using the police force and the army to do. And that the army and police force have been used to stand in between the PPP's oppression and black and opposition resistance. And so we felt that we had to go and speak directly to the army and the police. And we need to speak to them not in diplomatic language. We need to make it very clear to them at the end of the day, those people that you are shooting in the name of the Constitution are your brothers, your sisters, and something is wrong with that. And so, in a sense, we laid it out. Now, all they heard was us saying to the police and the army, turn your guns. They didn't hear the rest. And so, therefore, there must be a reason why Tacuma said what he said. And of course, there must be a reason why the PPP and its friends have responded the way they responded. Now, you as a government don't respond with the top army man, the head of state, the attorney general, all your acolytes, if it's something you're not losing. You're responding to that because there is something that you stand to lose if what these fellas are saying on the platform mean anything. And you know what they stand to lose? Is the protection from the army and the police. That's what they stand to lose. And that's why they're so vehement in their response to what Tacuma said, and by extension, the WP.
Let us for the sake of our viewers, tell us what exactly Mr. Ogunseye would have said at that meeting, that the leader of the opposition was present. Yourself, you were there. What exactly and in what context would he have put it?
Well, the context I laid out just now, the context of oppression and using the police force and the army to suppress latent response, potential response, and actual
Actual
response.
response, yes.
Right, actual response. That is the context. Now, what he said is, look, something is absolutely wrong in a society where a government of a particular ethnicity is oppressing people of the opposite ethnicity. And that the army and the police are made up in the majority of people of the ethnicity that is under attack. And so, therefore, it is not a case where the army and the police are going against some people of another ethnicity and all of that. You're going against your own ethnicity. And so, there are two things you're doing wrong. One, you are attacking citizens and denying them their democratic right to protest. But more than that, that you are committing crimes against your own people. And so, therefore, we felt that we had to talk to them and tell them, we had to tell the government, you need to stop doing that.
Yes.
We need to we told the police and the army, you need to stop being used against citizens, and in particular citizens of your own ethnic group.
Yes.
And then we needed to tell the people, stop being cowards and prepare to defend yourself. Be battle ready is the term that Brother Ogunseye used. So in effect, he was saying very clearly that something is radically wrong in a society. First of all, for the army and the police to be taking orders from a government to deny people their right to protest. And secondly, that army and police is made up of majority African people, and they're turning their guns on African people. And so we say, no, 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 turn your guns not to African people, turn it in another direction. And Ogunseye is saying that, look, if the police and army do not shoot at black people and shoot at opposition supporters, this PPP government, their hold on the government and the society in Guyana will be quickly loosened.
It will be. I ought to deliberately ask you to reiterate that point. I heard you the first time, but for the sake of the viewers, I really had to ask you because it's so important. Do not turn your guns on us when we would have risen up to confront oppression. You are our own kind. You have to take that into consideration. When you would have taken off the blue, you will go back to black to borrow some sugar, to sit and have a drink with your brothers and sisters in your own community. Do not allow a racist government to continue trampling the rights, murdering our black brothers, suppressing, taking away subvention from IPADG, a black organization that is promoting black identity and our right to be self-sufficient. Dr. David Hinds, you have been blazing the trail, of course. You are a scholar and you are an intellectual. You know, you didn't buy your degree or anything. You have accomplished, but in you there is that understanding in your, there is that sort of sense in your DNA, that little extra thing in your DNA, that regardless of what you would have accomplished, you remain within the ranks of the grassroots to fight oppression against the ordinary African Guyanese. You have interviewed GHK Lal, and I want to mention GHK Lal, at the beginning of this program because GHK Lal is a voice of reason. We have to look to Indian Guyanese who are voices of reason in Guyana because our sojourn to the absolute is really unity, but we cannot allow that desire to overshadow what really obtains with a wicked government that is dividing us. GHK Lal went to the newspapers and he said that Ogunseye went too far. How do you respond?
Well, he also said in a subsequent article that Ogunseye has said some truths that the government must pay attention to, and the failure to pay attention to it would be in trouble. So you have to read GHK Lal in its totality. And I think that if there is one Indian Guyanese, if you are asking me for one Indian Guyanese who is not WPA, who has the moral authority to be critical of Ogunseye is GHK Lal, right? But he was not critical of Ogunsey. He put it in context. He started by saying, from where I am, he went too far. All right?
Mhm.
Here is why he went that far.
Mhm.
Tonight on my program, I made the point. Ogunsey could not have gotten that far if the PPP had not gone that far.
Yes.
It is the PPP that has gone far. And all that Ogunsey did is follow the PPP. To say Ogunsey has gone far without contextualizing it is to say he has gone past the PPP. But Ogunsey never ordered the killing of Quindon Bacchus, of or in Boston, of Peter Headley. Ogunsey never ordered the demolition of homes in Linden, where you are from, in Mocha
Maka.
Arcade
Mhm.
and in front of the hospital. Ogunse never ordered for the young men and that young woman from Golden Grove, Nabaklis Haslington, to be charged with terrorism. Ogunse never took money away from Ipadaji. Ogunse never locked up the people at GCOM to get them away so that the PPP could cut their own people to rig the elections. Ogunse never did all of that, so Ogunse didn't go far. It's the PPP that did that. It's the PPP that went far, and Ogunse followed them and tell them stop. And they stopped. Because when the president came on air and started to, he stopped Ogunse, stop him, and said, come and speak to the Guyanese people. It's when the leader of the armed forces come out and speak. Ogunse made him speak. Ogunse made the attorney general speak. He made all those crawl out from their holes, the private sector, and FITOG, and all of them. Ogunse made them do that because he went after the PPP, who went far, too far, and he said, stop.
Dr. David Hinds there talking to us about the Buxton meeting, and we are rocking on. Dr. Hinds, the WPA is an opposition party that was, I think, in coalition with the PNC in the last government. There was a coalition. Of course, the WPA would have, I think, walked away. So is the AFC. So has the AFC. Look, the People's National Congress, the Indo-Guyanese MPs and executive members of the People's National Congress would have come out in condemnation of Mr. Ogunse's statement. And they would have highlighted that the leader of the opposition of their own party would have been on that platform. And, they were saying really that he should have condemned it or disassociated himself from that aspect of that meeting. I want to add also, in all fairness to the PNC, that it wasn't as is being said out there. It wasn't only the Indian representatives of the PNC. Annette Ferguson, who is an Afro Guyanese member of parliament, came out condemning the WPA on our Facebook page. We need to record that, and we need to make that clear that it wasn't only the Indo-Guyanese in the party. Annette Ferguson came out in support of the Indo-Guyanese or fellow MPs of Indian ethnicity, and she condemned it vehemently. She condemned it, and so I wanted to make that point. Look, when you look at what was said by Ganesh Maipal, Natasha, uh, Ubraj Narain, the mayor of Georgetown, and the regional chairman of Region 4, Daniel Siram, in that statement, what do you have to say to the Guyanese world about what transpired there? Were they
Well,
justified?
yeah, there were two statements. The statement by Ganesh, Daniel, Ubraj, and Natasha was a statement against something that was said on the platform by Sister Rhonda Lane. Sister Rhonda Lane is a working class woman. She's very popular on these talk shows. She's on all of them. And she spoke on our platform. And she used the C word to describe Indians. And then she said that they were poor people. She used the term beggars and so on when they were in India. And Ganesh and them took umbrage to that statement. They felt it was degrading to East Indians and so on. And so it was that statement that they came out against, not Ogunse's statement. I want to be fair to them. Now, what the press did is that the press took that statement against Sister Rhonda and they turned it into a general statement against the WPA and Ogunse. Now, here is where I think they were tactically wrong. Now, I am not defending Sister Rhonda's statements. I would not use that statement. I have chided Sister Rhonda in public about using that C word. Even if Indians themselves use it, I thought that we as Africans should not use it. And so therefore, I am not at all saying that they should not be offended. But what they should have done, I think, in the circumstances where the PPP is circling the wagon, and where the PPP is looking at people to condemn the WPA, they should have dealt with that matter internally. They should not have gone publicly. Now, they called me on Saturday morning and I was not able to answer them. And by the time I was able to answer them late in the day, I told Ganesh, I said, Ganesh, I take full responsibility for what was said on the platform. I didn't know then that they had already put out the statement. And so I thought the statement played right into the hands of the PPP. The matter could have been handled differently. And that is why I refrain from calling them slave catchers, because I think it's inexperience. To know that, look, you might be hurt, this thing here, but if you put out a statement, it will be to the benefit of the other side. It wouldn't benefit your side. And so I think it was very, very unfortunate. But I put it down to lack of political experience. I don't think they consulted the top leadership of their party. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But I would imagine if they had consulted the full top leadership, they might not have gone that way. But they went that way. And I felt that I had to come out against it because, one, Amanza was accused by the PPP of making insensitive statement to India. Ganesh and them didn't put out a statement, right? Amanza's PNC, so they supporting PNC, right? Ubraj was charged by the PPP of making racially religious. They didn't come out against Ubraj, right? He's PNC. Right? They come out against a working class woman. It's not Ogunse made a statement or me or so. It's a working class woman who, is trying to express, come on, man. And so there was some inconsistency there. And, as an African, I tell you, Norman, when they went after Ubraj, I felt that I had a personal duty. I'm an African with a loud voice, literally and politically. And I felt that if I came to that brother's defense, it meant something. And I put all my energy. I went in front of the court. I walked with him from in front of the court back to his office because I felt as an African, I should not be throwing an Indian under the bus, an Indian who's in our side. And these Indian brothers and sisters are throwing an African woman on our side under the bus. I don't think they're looking around them and observing. So I put it down to inexperience. Now, Geeta Chandan, she made a statement.
Former General Secretary of the PNCR.
Yes, she made a statement condemning Ogunse. And so I had to label her as a slave catcher because you are taking prisoners and handing them over to the PPP. How do you do that in our struggle? Our struggle. If East Indians are under attack tomorrow, my brother, I will be in front there defending them because I consider my moral right. A moral right. In the 70s, when East Indians said they were oppressed by Burnham, We didn't ask them whether you're right or wrong or what. We gave them full support. When this story was happening in Buxton and Indians were being killed by those brothers there in Buxton, Iyusi Kwayano and I, myself, David Hinds, the three of us put our lives on the line because Iyusi and I were from Buxton, in where those guys are with guns. And we said, not in our name. You are not killing Indians in our name. And so we set an example for these brothers and sisters, but they didn't. And so therefore, I had to have some harsh words for them tonight. I had to be harsher on Gita because you have to understand our history. When we were in slavery, people were catching us and turning us over to the slave master. And today's slave masters are the PPP. You are catching us and turning us over? Oh no, oh no, oh no. I love Sister Gita. You know, I've had, whenever I've met her, we have had very cordial relations, but I have to take a political stance against her because if she's allowed to get away with turning prisoners over and catching slaves and turning them over, catching black people because you feel they're slaves and turning them over, others will follow. And so I have to take a hard line against her.
Dr. Hinds there, Professor Dr. Hinds of the WPA Politics 101 also. He's the host of that program. Here talking to Voice of the Diaspora on a very, very serious issue in Guyana. And in fact, it is actually a turning point in the politics of our country where we are seeing political representation, or we are seeing voices of political leaders saying enough is enough. We will no longer accept that oppression. We will lead because our people need leadership. One of the things you have said on your many interviews and on your program is that our supporters will not just get up and rise up. They need political leadership. They need that sort of leadership. I want you to expand on that and go straight into what was set by the Private Sector Commission, by the AG, by the PPP, and most importantly, by the head of the armed forces, who is an African Guyanese that many believe is doing the bidding of the PPP. Expand on that, but deal with the first question. Thank you.
Yes. Look, remind me the first question again.
Well, you made me go into a whole
Yeah,
other
I,
because
the one
no,
is respond to.
but you let me see if I can get it back. You were
Oh, yeah. You said that I've always argued that people will not rise up and so on. Yes,
yes,
yes.
yes.
And you want me to start? Yeah. No. But in terms of my academic studies, but more importantly, my observation of Guyanese politics for the last 50 years, you develop an understanding of human instincts. And I think we politicians don't deal with human instincts. We think that all that people do is go out and march and they
Yeah.
go out and vote, and we don't deal with their human instincts. And a man or a woman wakes up in the morning. There's so much going on. That lady wakes up in the morning. She has to wake up and cook for her husband to go to work.
Yes. Yes.
She got to get the children ready if to go to school. She has to then go to work if she's working. If she's not working, she's home as a homemaker. And she has to balance, where she got $10,000 and it takes $15,000 to put a meal for the family. She has to do all of those things. And so therefore she does not wake up every day and say the PPP is oppressing us. She knows that. She knows the origins of our oppression, but she's dealing concretely for what's there. And she's not going to come out on the road just so I'm going and protest. There has to be something that makes it clear for us, that is, um, uh, makes the linkage between our day-to-day struggle and what's happening politically on the street. Now, it is we, the activists, who have to make that connection clearer for her, clearer for him, you know? And so, therefore, I have always argued that I don't think black people taking blows and not doing nothing. I talk to them, they talk to me. And I know that all it takes is for that fusion of time, place, and person. That person, Ogunseye, that place, Buxton, and that time, early March, fused together, right, and produces that spark
But you're
that
saying that
makes the
that political leadership essentially must lead that charge.
must lead that charge, but the political leader must be conscious of his or her environment. You see, and some people felt that with after 3 years, the PPP has choked themselves. 3 years. If we had made this statement in the first year, we would have got 1/3 of. But in 3 years, they went on and they moved from killing to them demolishing. And look, that mocker, the image of that mocker thing.
Yes, yes,
You and I are old enough,
yes.
and we are black enough, and we are poor enough to know what demolishing a person's home, that image, I think that changed Guyana. And so we felt here was the time. Here was the time to come out into the open and confront the bully. And we are confronting the bully not as Ogunseye, not as David Hinds, but in the name of a party that has a history in the country. You see, parties like the WPA, my brother, you don't measure those parties by the number of votes they get, because our votes go two places in Guyana. It goes for the Indian party, and the logic of the society
Yes,
takes
yes.
us there. And so, therefore, you don't measure. I'm sure if you ask people, what would your second vote be? There's a system, I think Lani Guinier had come up with a system where she said, give people two votes, your first choice and your second choice. We have no doubt that the WPA would be the second choice for a number of people. So we weren't worried. We understand the instinct, the radical instinct of what we come out of slavery, we come out of colonialism, we come out of indenture. We have to be radicals. By radicals, I mean the root, the ROOT, not the surface, right? The root. We have to be. And so the WPA, in a sense, represents and is instigated by that radical instinct. And so it is that radical instinct that we trusted, because we felt the PPP had done enough. They had radicalized that African Guyanese population, radicalized, and we felt that we, as the party, we had the kind of understanding and presence in order to, in a sense, bring that radicalism out to the open. Right? So we've done our job. We don't care tomorrow if people don't vote for us. A lot of people have been calling for us to apply. Lawyers have been calling to say they're ready to defend us and we welcome all of that. But we
I saw
didn't do it.
Selwyn Peters, a very young
Selwyn, right?
lawyer.
We
But
didn't do it for that.
but
Yes.
but, but let me ask you this, because I have to ask you some hard questions. Um, Look, what happens if tomorrow the PPP decides to arrest brother Tacuma Ogunseye under the Terrorism Act? Is the WPA organized enough to respond to that in the way it was said and in the way the call was made?
I will answer you the way Walter Rodney used to answer when people would ask us that question: are you organized enough? And Walter used to say, our organization is in the ranks of the people. In the ranks of the people. We have to mobilize the people to take action, what Rodney called self-activity for self-emancipation. You see? Brother Bob said, the hotter the struggle, the sweeter the victory, right? And so our job is really not only just to organize ourselves as a party, but we don't believe the party is the vanguard. There's where we part company with the communists, right? That the party is the vanguard. We never believe that. We believe the party must be a guide and the party must be guided by the ultimately the vanguard is the people, right? And so if they arrest Ogunseye, we are going to depend on the masses of people to answer that action. And I can tell you now as I sit here, if they arrest that brother, there will be dire consequences in Guyana. That's all I can say. There will be consequences in Guyana. I am sure of that. Whether the PPP is sure of that, that's their business. But if they touch that brother, there will be consequences in Guyana.
There will be consequences. Dr. David Hinds here. He's had a long day. We're not going to have a long program. But I have to ask you this question, Dr. Hinds. I want you to say to our viewers, in directing your position to the head of the armed forces, Mr. Bess, he would have rushed to make a statement saying that the armed forces will not bow to political directives and so on. It is there to protect and serve and to be impartial and whole heap of stuff. What is your message to Mr. Best tonight?
He overstepped his remit. The political statements are made by political bosses. If the Minister of Home Affairs wanted to make that statement, he would have been fully in order. The president made the statement, I guess, based as head of government. But the army and police are not supposed to get into those kind of political language. And so when this brother in effect said he's warning against political division and ethnic fanning the flames of it, no, he's being political. On the one hand, you say you're apolitical, but then what follows are political statements. You are making a value judgment of what Ogunseye say. It is not your job. Your job is to go and protect us against the Venezuelans and others who want to attack us, our territorial integrity. Your job is when the police is not able to deal with any kind of civil problems, you come on the streets, not to use your guns to support them. The army needs to be in the barracks. That's where they need to be, not to be coming out on the streets as they did in West Bobis, as they did in Buxton the other day. No, and so therefore, he's out of order. He's out of order. But the other thing with the brother is that the brother was a brother before he went into the army. The brother is black like you, black like me, and even blacker. Mm-hmm. The brother came from the womb of a black woman. The brother was raised by a black family and a black community. The brother was educated by us. The brother did not get where he got because of the PPP. And so we want to let him understand that, brother, we are not going to allow you to use what we have done for you to take it and to turn guns against us and to talk to us anyhow. You don't do that because there's life after the PPP. And so we wanted to tell that brother, we love you. We love you. We love you, and we're going to put our arms around you. We have changed the conversation. The PPP, you see, the PPP loves when we cuss the police and we cuss the army. Well, the WP has changed that now. We are saying we love the police, we love the army, and they're getting scared. We love the police, we love the army, but we're saying to the police and the army that love that we are showing you, we expect some love to be returned from you. Not an affirmative love, but a love whereby you don't do something. We're not asking you to fight for us. We don't want the army to fight for us. As they're saying, Ogunseye called for the army to make an uprising. We're not calling for no military coup. We are calling for a people's insurrection.
Direction. Yeah.
We don't want the police and the army to fight for us. Because if they fight for us and they win, then they keep the freedom, as we have seen across the world with military coups and military governments. We are,
You're
we, we are not fools.
you're calling for civil
We don't want
disobedience
the
and
army.
non-cooperation.
That's right. We do not want the army and police to fight for us and then turn Guyana into a military dictatorship. No, no. All we are saying to the army and police, take those guns away from us. Turn those guns away from us. So we are fighting for you in the police force. And all we're asking in return is to show us some love by turning those guns away from your mothers, your sisters, because there's life after the PPP. Then you take off that uniform and you go back in the community, as you say, you got to drink with me. You got to, if you're broke and you want a passage, is your partner, you got to ask for a passage in the village. All right? Is the women in the village, you got to teach your children. Is the nurses at the health center who got to take care of your children when they get sick. Know what you're doing. Know how you're moving. Watch how you're moving, brother. And we have to say that to our brothers in uniform for them to understand what time of day it is. Nowhere in the world people are going to turn their guns on their own ethnic group at the behest of the leadership of another ethnic group. They're not turning their guns on Indians. They have never done that. And in any case, the PPP don't like them in the army. You hear Jagdio talk about the police and the army like a dog, how they're going to kick down your door and rape your children and all those kind of things the PPP leaders would say. And you are allowing them to make you. They believe that you are nothing at all. They believe that you don't worth anything. I heard a tape last night, people play with Jagdio, raging about the army, and I think it was your show. Might have been. Anyhow, I heard it on some one of the show. People playing that tape of the man saying they're going to kick down your door and so on and so forth. And now you are going to allow that man to tell you to go and shoot your brothers. We needed to talk to our black brothers in uniform and sisters. And not the sisters, they don't shoot up and so on. It's the brothers. And we need to talk to them. And that's what we did. And we did it with love.
Dr. Hinds, there has been, and it's good that the WPA would have thrown down the gauntlet, so to speak, and would have bailed the cat in the context of saying enough is enough, and that our people will no longer accept that sort of oppression. We have seen a new trend coming out of the People's Progressive Party government that is arresting innocent protesters and so on, people who are standing up under the Terrorism Act. It is showing an image that blacks are terrorists and that we should not want to even say anything that may be construed because the terrorism is a very serious charge. Ogunseye broke that anvil by saying, we are not afraid. We are not afraid. We are going to say it. Do whatever you want to do. By extension, Ogunseye is saying that I would join my brothers and sisters who are innocent, who are not political leaders, who are being arrested for protesting and being called terrorists. Let the leaders stand up. You said in a number of your public pro-offerings that we must not sell the dignity of African Guyanese for crossover votes. Yeah. Expand on that, sir, please.
I feel very strongly about that, Brother Norman, because I think it's insulting to say to black people who have, slaved this country and given selflessly to this country, and to say to them what Booker T. Washington once said, accept your second-class citizenship. And Ravidev quoted Booker T. Washington in a conversation he was having with me on Globespan and us. And he said, We must let down our bucket where we are. In effect, here's an Indian brother saying to black people, man, don't worry about your house getting knocked down. Don't worry about, your children thing. Forget about that, man. Try and win the election. And here's how you're going to win the election. Try and get some votes from me, right? It convinced me, people, that they can come over and make you win an election. But here's the way you got to do it. You cannot cry for your own people. You got to watch your people die and say nothing, because if you protest, according to Ravi Dev, you're being self-defeatist
Ravi Dev is
because
a
India.
prominent Indian rights activist in
Prominent
Guyana. I
Indian
just wanted my views to know. Yes.
I am saying, how more immoral can you get to tell human beings that they must sell their dignity? They must sell themselves for a few crossover votes. Is that
Votes,
what
yeah.
you think of us? Is that what we were? Um, I'm a proud black man. I am so proud of this color because so many people have not been proud of it. And my pride in this is grounded in the history of our people. And for a man to watch me and reduce my people's heart to crossover vote, I don't know what to say.
But
But
you
I am
said on the
so
other hand, you know what to say, because you said on the other hand, while they're saying we should depend on the crossover votes, they are vilifying Burnham. They are poisoning Indo-Guyanese towards Africans. Expand a bit on that before we wrap up.
yes. On the one hand, you're telling me I got to go and get crossover vote from Indians, and then you tell Indian people Burnham was a devil. Burnham was a devil. Black people don't want to work. Black people don't get capacity to run business. Then you're telling them don't vote for those people. So you're making me a jackass, you know? And so I am making it very clear. Yes, if I am participating in election, if the WPA is participating in election, we want every vote that we can get. But the price, what is the price we are willing to pay for those crossover votes? We are not willing to sell African dignity. We are not willing to sell African pride and African humanity for that crossover vote. We would like crossover votes if we can get it through reason and policies. But the price you want me to pay, you can keep your
You
crossover
can
vote.
keep your crossover votes. Dr. David Hinds here on Voice of the Diaspora. Of course, he has had a long day. I would have kept him for a longer time, but I know that he has so many engagements and he's been working hard. But I have to ask him two more questions before we go. He can be as brief or he can be as extended as possible. Dr. David Hinds, the leader of the opposition, would have made a statement to News Source today. The leader of the opposition was on the platform with the WPA in Buxton. He did not make any statements even when the PPP came out with the trajectory and the urgency of calling the WPA and Mr. Ogunseye, out of order, terrorists, and so on. Look, he has made a statement today for the first time. Tell us what that statement was. Tell us what that statement is, and what are your thoughts on it?
Well, Brother Aubrey said that he has some problems with Ogunse's language. That's okay. That's okay. Different parties use different language to describe the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
He said that he thought Ogunse went too far, and we can understand that it's a statement that people make without reflecting too much, without realizing Ogunse could have only gone that far if the PPP had gone that far. But I think by and large, when you look at the context and the statements that he made in addition to those two statements, one has to say that Aubrey Norton will not go down in history as an opposition leader who delivered prisoners to the enemy. He did not do that today in his statement. And I have to salute him. The WPA salutes him for that. We are not asking Norton, the PNC, or anybody to endorse what we said. We're not asking for endorsement. All we're asking is do not join the other side in criminalizing what we said. And Brother Aubrey did not do that today. Now, I understand that Aubrey comes from a big party And a big party has various factions, and as the leader, you have to satisfy all the
You have to be
factions.
strategic in your response also.
Right. And one faction has already showed its hand, or members of one faction
Faction.
has already showed its hand. And so we understand that Brother Norton had to be very careful and in the way he crafted his statement. And the only litmus test we had was that you do not join with the other side in criminalizing what we said. We didn't want him to endorse what we said, to endorse our platform. And so we are not unhappy with Brother Norton's statement.
Thank you very much. I think that what the WP has done recently at that meeting, and there are a number of other meetings that will be conducted as time progresses in the near future. But what the WP has done essentially that is important to the moment in our political history is that the WPA confronted that fear that is driven into Guyanese, especially African Guyanese, with all of what the PPP is doing in terms of terrorism act, in terms of arresting people, in terms of we are seeing execution style murders in Guyana. We have seen the killing of black men in their beds. We have seen the suppression of black organization and black leadership, denying them what is rightfully theirs, that they would not be able to provide leadership for their support base and so on. And we have seen what the PPP would have done in 23 years that they are doing in almost 2+ years to 3 years. And I think that what the WPA did there was important to bring on a halt to this madness that the PPP is projecting on the Guyanese people to drive fear. And I'm happy that the WPA, I am a PNCR supporter. I fight the PNC struggle, but I hug the WPA today. And I stand by Brother Ogunseye. I stand by yourself in this struggle. We have to unite. We have to fight. Dr. David Hinds, a minute to give your closing remarks and you can get your rest to continue the fight tomorrow.
I just want to thank you, my brother, for inviting me to speak here. In contrast to some media houses like the Stabrook News, which carried what everybody said condemning the WPA, but not carried one word of the WPA statement. Thank God. Thank God for these platforms. Thank God for what you're doing, what Brother Mark, Brother Rickford, Brother Sherrod Duncan, Brother Paul Slow, and I may be missing one or two others, what the PNC brothers do on their platforms. Thank God what Corette is doing and others. Thank God for these platforms, because I don't know where our people would have been, because the media have turned their backs on us. The media have, in a sense, let black people down in this country. And so I want to thank you for what you've done, for giving me an opportunity beyond my own base. And even then, the people who may listen to my program, the ancestors may send out the thoughts in a certain way. But I come here an hour later and the ancestors may send out the thoughts in another way. And so for affording me this opportunity to spread the word, and and you do owe me an appearance on my program,
And I
and
will satisfy that.
we are we are going to do that. I thought you were in Guyana when I saw some things about the seawall and so on and so forth.
No, no, they're not
And
going to allow me there at the moment, but I'm not afraid.
yes, but thank you very much for affording me the opportunity.
Dr. Ein,
As you said, yes,
Dr.
this
Ein,
is my
go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
my third interview. I was doing an interview out of Uganda this morning, and then my own program, and then I come here now, and it's part of the work that has to be done. So thank you much,
I
and thank you, viewers.
and I want to thank you too. I want to say to our viewers that what the WP had done, and Brother Ogunseye is on the lips of so many in the diaspora. In fact, we are thinking about holding a town hall meeting here in London to let our people know what is happening. I would have contacted a brother who is good at organizing, but I was asked, or are you a part of the lodge? Are you this or you that? You know, and so on. And I just wanted people to know I'm grassroots. I will not engage the Guyana High Commissioner to come to any meeting that I have. It is for the grassroots people here in the UK to give that side of our story without any interference by anyone. And that's my struggle. I want to say that the WPA introduced today James Baldwin's 1963, The Fire Next Time. And the PPP must understand that. We are in a struggle and we will give our life for this struggle. You are counted in this struggle, Dr. Hinds. Mark Benchop is counted in this struggle. Lincoln Lewis is counted in this struggle. All of us, Rickford Burke, a leader in this struggle, Kadaki Amsterdam, Sherrod Duncan, Amanza Walton, all of us, regardless of whatever little differences we would have, human differences, we have to unite in this political struggle. Thank you once again. The fire next time. We will not relent. We will not give up. We will continue this struggle. Dr. David Hinds here on Voice of the Diaspora. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, my brother.